Welcome yet again to a wonderful episode of the Bridging Divides podcast. We have the illustrious Cory Hodnett. Am I saying that right?
Hodnett, yeah.
Hodnett? Okay, dude.
It's a weird one.
I've always felt like I'm saying your name wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, shows how much I've prepared for this. Keep it super profesh, you know. Cory, oh my gosh, dude, this guy from the get-go, from when I met him a couple years ago, dressing up as a cockroach, you know, to business meetings and, you know, just very, you know, he knows his stuff. I feel like
See what I do around the house.
really get into the minds, you know, of the insects, you know. Green Machine Pest Control, that's what he does. So to kill a roach, you got to be the roach. Is that the
Oh yeah, think like a roach.
Is that the mindset?
Eat like a roach. Yeah, no, gosh. Oh.
Your wife's like, quit eating in the garbage.
No, it's you'd build up a tolerance for what you're around, right? I used to actually knock doors, like selling door to door, and
Yeah.
there was a neighborhood that had a real bad cockroach problem, and I just scooped one up in like a Ziploc bag, and I put it in my clipboard, and then when I'd talk to people and be like, hey, everyone's having roaches around here, and they'd be like, oh, no, not us. We don't have roaches. And I'd flip the bag over, and the roach would squeam in the bag, and they'd be like, oh, we got those, though, and they'd freak out.
Brilliant.
Well, I had it on my thing, and I'm like, I went home to see my wife for lunch or something, and my clipboard's sitting right there. I'm eating a sandwich, and I set it down on my clipboard, and it's right on top of the Ziploc with a roach in it. I didn't even notice. And I picked it back up, and I'm eating, and my wife's like, you are disgusting. And I was like, you know, it's just another day on the job.
Yeah. What's a roach or two in the, you know,
Yeah.
good to go.
I can't say I've ever eaten one, but
Oh, that's
They
probably
just don't bother
smart.
me.
Okay, confession time. So as a kid, so I'm the youngest, well, sort of. So I'm number 6 of 7.
yeah.
Youngest boy anyways. And so I can't tell you how many bugs I have eaten. Mitch, do this. It'll be cool.
You were the loser of Truth or Dare.
Yeah, always.
You always got the dare.
Yeah.
And then, well, maybe I'm not the loser. Maybe that makes you the winner.
I don't know. They got me to do so many different things. Kiss frogs, eat bugs, crickets, flies, all that sort of crap.
And your immune system's amazing.
Yeah, dude, I haven't been sick in 15 years, man. I'm good to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so Cory here is, we met a couple years ago, yet again, through BNI.
Yep.
I do a lot of networking, which is just my favorite thing in the world to do because it allows me to get into contact with so many different people, so many different things. We just had an interview with somebody that does IV therapy,
Oh, fun.
right? Like mobile IV therapy. It's like I would never be in
Drive
that.
around and stab people.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
I get in trouble when I do that. But
Usually
no,
a prison sentence
yeah.
with that.
But she does it legally. But
Cool.
yeah, so I really like being able to meet a lot of different people, do a lot of different things. Question, I was wondering, have you seen other people from other industries give you advice that has helped you to be successful in your business? Like where you would never think that somebody in some other profession that was totally unrelated would help you
Oh,
out?
yeah.
Yeah. How so?
Well, so I belong to like a networking group that's through Tony Robbins, and
Cool.
it's a
We
lot
just
of-
talked about Tony Robbins on the last episode.
Yeah, I'm in his platinum group, and so I network a lot with other business owners.
That's
and
awesome.
So we talk heavily about hiring and training employees and creating our standard operating procedures. And biggest example is the very first Tony Robbins event I went to. The people that go to those, by the way, they're amazing. They will tell you anything you need to know.
Really?
To get you to step over things that you would normally stumble on. And so great community. This lady, she was telling me about her also service business. It was a cleaning business, so different industry, but also home service. And I was like, man, we're having a tough time finding and hiring people and finding out that they're actually competent early enough. And so, and that's kind of right at the end of COVID where like you'd put up an ad and you get like 1 or 2 people apply and then like none of them would come in for an interview.
Yeah.
And so it was like,
That was a crazy
you just
time.
take anyone you'll get.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she actually sat me down and for 30 minutes, taught me about the way that they do their postings, the way that they line everything out, the way that they read the person on the phone interview, so that they can basically match them up with the job posting and vet them according to what's in the posting first.
Yeah.
And then the in-person interview is really just a cultural interview, just see if they'll match the company culture and the mindset.
Okay. Yeah.
But the skill set and stuff is all based off of the posting. And then she also gave me like a book that I should basically, she took like a 5-day course on this book that was specifically about this topic.
No
and
way.
in 30 minutes, she broke it down for me, and I was like, sweet. So
That's so cool.
yeah, big time.
No,
Yeah.
but that's why, that's one of the reasons. There's many, but one of the reasons why I love networking, because you get to get opinions, and not just opinions, but like experience from people that you normally wouldn't be, kind of in contact with. As you're running a business, I'm sure it's like head down a lot of times. You're trying to, get all of your ducks in a row. It's hard to kind of see outside of your own little thing to think of a solution to something. So, no, but I love that. That's awesome. So let's kind of dive in a little bit to kind of the history of Green Machine here.
Sure.
So how long have you been doing the business?
I've been in business about 8.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Started in 2015 in March.
Cool.
So.
Why? Like, how did that start?
Ever
since you were a little kid,
divine
you're like,
calling.
I want to be. Yeah.
I'm not kidding. It is
angels
kinda
appeared
crazy.
from the heavens, and they're like, "We need your assistance ridding the world of this pestilence."
I wish it was that.
Is that what happened?
That acute, but no. I came back from a mission for my church that I'd done for
cool.
2 years, and
Where'd you go?
I went to Montana.
Montana. I went to Uruguay.
Did you really?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Uruguay.
So
speaking Montanese, is that the
they do have a
language?
weird hick language that my parents picked up on right when I got back. They're like, "You've changed."
You've changed.
And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I was in U.S."
That's so funny.
But yeah.
Anyway, please go on.
So right before I left for my mission, I had this guy meet me in the Goodwill. I was buying ties for my mission.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey, when you come back, I got a job for you." And I was like, "Blessings already." It was super cool. So I came back home, called him, and got the job selling pest control door to door. So I did it all through college, and then I got my degree and was like, I get a big boy job with air conditioning. And so like I used my degree and sold software and stuff, and I'd moved around a little bit. And then my buddy that had sold on my team for a few years kept calling me and was like, "Dude, you got to come back to pest control. Everything's different. You can be a sales manager, recruit all your guys, make money off them." So it was all business related.
Yeah.
I was like, "Nah, man, big boy job, degree, air conditioning," and he's like, "Come on, you gotta come out." And I was like, "I'll pray on it, because I know you can't argue with that." And
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah,
"Then
yeah.
do it tonight." And I was like, "Okay." So I prayed about it that night, and the next day, no kidding, I walked into my job, and my boss was like, "Hey, we gotta let you go." And
Oh
I
my
was
gosh, that's crazy.
I'm in pest control again.
It was like, man, if you needed, if you're looking for a sign,
I needed a kick.
That's a heck of a sign. It is interesting sometimes, I've talked to people about like manifesting things in your life, right? And sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, like when people are like, I'm gonna manifest it in the universe, and then they do nothing about it, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, you're not gonna attract anything if you don't actually act on anything. Anyways, but like it is interesting though when you get into the space of like, I'm going to do, right? Because I just mentioned this again on the last podcast, like faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can't just be like, just be like, send me this, please.
I'll see you in my bank account.
Yeah, and it's just like you're waiting, twiddling your thumbs, waiting
Yeah.
for it to come, and it's like it's never going to come like that. But it's interesting when you take steps forward, all of a sudden, all of these other things start happening.
Yep.
It's like seemingly totally like unrelated to you, but it's almost like there's two roads here, right? It's like you're in this one, operating at whatever pace you're on, and then there's this other one where all the stuff that you want is happening.
Yeah.
And as soon as you step into it and start moving along on it, then it comes your way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes quicker than you thought, and sometimes slower than you thought, but it'll come.
Yeah.
As you're moving forward.
Oh yeah.
That's what I've seen. I mean, it sounds like.
I got a swift kick into the right direction.
Yeah.
Which apparently I needed.
Yeah.
Which I never thought I'd be owning a pest control company, but I always knew I was going to own something because I've always been an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually fit where I was sitting at the time. I didn't love the job I was in. It wasn't a fit for like who I was, and I was actually becoming more and more depressed. And so I may have needed some divine intervention to get me out of that. And I got right back into doing things I love, which is I love face-to-face selling.
Yeah.
And so
I'm a face-to-face guy too.
Yeah. So it was great for me to get back into that. I sold pest control. I sold alarm systems for a couple summers. And when I'd come back to Arizona, because I'd go to different markets, when I come back to Arizona, I'd work with my bishop at my church, and he had a pest control company, so I'd come back and sell for him.
So you've been in the game for a long time. Like, this isn't something that you just like woke up one day and were going to do. Like, you've had experience doing this.
And I have an international business degree, and I've always planned on being in business.
Yeah.
And so, like, I could see the rest of the business portions. And the guy that I was coming back and selling for, my bishop at the time, was like asking me to be a partner with him. But when we got together, we found we had different visions of what we wanted the long term to look like. And so he was like, "Why don't I just help you set yours up?" And I was like, "I have no more barriers to entry here. I better get a move on."
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, when it's interesting how sometimes that'll happen. It's like, dang it, man, I don't have any more excuses.
Yeah. Well, it's what's funny is that I don't know where this harebrained idea came up with, but I came home one day and told my wife, like, "Hey, I've been working for a long time. I know you love working." She has an international degree as well, and she was like, I was like, "Why don't we switch roles? I'll be stay-at-home dad. You be breadwinner." And she was like, "Let's do it." She was super stoked about it.
Cool.
So she was going to school to be a esthetician. And get her license there.
Is that why your beard looks all pretty? Oh no, it's just skin stuff.
That's skin. That's
yeah.
That's cosmetology. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, go on.
So she come home one day,
how much I know.
And I had started the pest control company, and she's like, "What are you doing?" "I'm going to school right now." And I was like, "We're both going to be working. I can't do this. I can't be at home.
Sorry.
I'm going stir crazy." And she's
funny.
like, "You had one job, one job to do. Keep that one alive."
It just goes to show, like, just how like crazy that job is.
Oh yeah.
Like yeah.
I just couldn't handle it. I'm not good at making food. I burned a lot of stuff.
Dude.
So
being a stay-at-home mom is not for sissies. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, for all the people out there, like, like, feel like it's like you settled for staying at home instead of work. It's like, no, dude, oh my gosh, man.
No.
That's more work than.
Yeah, there were a few days where she came home and I'm like, "Everyone's still alive. What do you want?"
Yeah,
like, I was still in my PJs. Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, I started my company, and we kind of ran tandem at the same time. But yeah, it's kind of always been in my blood to do it. I've started a couple dozen businesses over time. And
what are some of the other ones you've had?
Oh gosh, I was a consultant for a software company doing sales, and then I had another one where I was doing setup for that. I started one where we were updating homes to become more energy efficient, because that's when like all like the Energy Star stuff came out.
Oh, dude, that brought my bill down when I put new insulation in the roof, sealed up the ducts and everything.
Yep.
It brought my bill down like $50 on average every single month. It was crazy.
Yeah. Ceiling fans, appliances, all that kind of stuff, like just changing everything out.
Yeah.
So there was that. And, I've had so many. I even started when I was a little kid. I was selling candy in first grade, and I almost got expelled for it.
Oh, that's so funny.
Because kids would pass money during class.
Oh, that's
And my
funny.
teacher was like, "Hey, if you're going to do that, do it during recess." I'm like, "Yeah, I got you." But then kids kept sending money, and if you're going to put money in my pocket, I'm going to send candy your way.
Yeah. That's so funny, dude.
Yeah.
You like coming with the trench coat, and you're just
Right?
like, "Hey, I got some."
It was Cory's candy backpack.
I got the good. Oh,
yeah. I was like,
there
"I
you
got
go.
what you want." And I'd open it up, and they'd be like, "Oh, let's see what
Oh, that's
That was
legit
fun.
though. No,
Yeah.
but I love that. Like I've got 50,000 kids at home, 5 boys, 1 girl.
Yeah.
But they're always coming up with some sort of scheme on what to do, and they're always asking about. My oldest, his thing lately, because I like to invest as well.
Yeah.
My brother's got an investment company, Hedgehog Investments, which we've talked about. We've got an episode with my dad. He's the COO of the company.
Yeah.
My brother's one of the co-founders, and so then my dad's working for my brother. It's kind of funny, but it's like that. That's a world that I grew up in. My dad was always doing some sort of investment of some sort, and so And so lately he's my oldest he's 9, almost 10. He's asking me, so how does this work? Like, how does the investment work? And he wants to know all like the inner workings of like step by step and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I love seeing that.
Yeah.
But there's something, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, there's something I feel that you gain from having that mindset. Like it's like this empowerment, I feel, of like, instead of sitting and being like, oh man, like life sucks, I don't have anything coming my way. It's like, well, what am I going to do to get it done, right?
Yeah.
So I've talked a bit about the bridge strategy in BNI. The second building block is lay the first brick. Like, you can't wait for somebody else to build your half of the bridge. Like,
Right.
it's up to you.
Yeah.
How have you seen that principle of taking initiative in your success?
That's a great question. I would just say, like, every time I've had something where I'm like, because I come from the mindset, my parents kind of ingrained it in me that, like, oh, we don't have money for that. Oh, we can't do that.
I've heard that one a lot.
So coming from that mindset, like, when I wanted something, I would just go do my own thing to go get it. So I started my own lawn mowing business to pay for school clothes. And I wanted this sick BMX bike, and I had to sell soccer coupon books for the soccer club I was in. But if you sold a certain amount of coupon books, you got like this prize and that prize. And then one of them was like this dope BMX bike. And so I was like, I'm getting the BMX bike.
There you go.
So I just would like do whatever I was going to do. So like the mindset thing, you can have anything you want in this world. You just have to make a plan for it and go after it. It's not that, oh, one day I'll get that car, one day I'll have that business, one day I'll do whatever. It's like, no, you want that? Great. Just, you can't have it right this second, but it's coming. And let's make a plan for it. And, so like I'm teaching my daughter who's 12 about money and about, that kind of thing. And she's like, well, I'm never gonna, I don't know. I want to put this cloud thing up in my ceiling. There's like some trendy cloud thing where you make it look like lightning and thunder in your ceiling or whatever.
That sounds awesome.
She's like, it costs like $80 in materials. And I was like,
so expensive.
$80, right? Like,
it's like the end of the world when you're 12.
And I was like, is there, how can you get it? And so I didn't want to give her the answer, but I was like, how can you get it? And she's like, well, my birthday's coming up in February. And I was like, February, 6 months away. What else you got? And she's like, Christmas. And I was like, okay, that's December. There's 4 months. What else you got? And she's like, I could just ask you guys for money. And I was like, not going to happen. What else you got? And so like we went through all the possibilities. And one of them was, who has the money? So I like Grant Cardone. I watched his Undercover Billionaire.
Yeah.
And his mantra in that was, who's got my money? And it wasn't that he was greedy and he was like, everyone's got my money. It was like, the money's out there and it will be mine. I just have to figure out how to get it from their pockets to my pockets and provide the value. Right. And so that was what I was teaching her. It was like, all right, who's got the money that you're going to have to do it? And she was like, well, I think you do. And I was like, great. So what's the value you'll give? And she was like,
interesting.
What if I do a lot of chores? And I was like, okay. And she's like, well, how many chores would I need to do? And I was like, why don't you tell me? And she was like, well, it's like $1 a chore, right? And I was like, yes. And she's like, all right, so I got to do this many chores. And she got overwhelmed with it. And I was like, how about you just do as many chores as you can in one day? And let's see how many days it would take.
We'll go from there.
And so she did all these chores. And she was like, how much would you pay me for this one? Constant. How much would you pay me for that one? Pay me for that one. And I was like, how about you just do the chores and then check in with me at the end of the day and say, here's all the chores I did. How much do I get? Instead of bugging me about each one.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what I look for in employees. I'm looking for people that go, there's still more time in my day. What else could I get done? And she's like, oh, okay.
That's awesome. As opposed to having the mindset of like, I got my 3 things done. And
like, the chores are done for the day. I made my $8 or whatever it is, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go play.
Like, always be looking for the more.
Yeah.
That next thing.
Yeah. So she had 2 weeks to earn her stuff, whatever. It took her 4 days.
I love that.
And I was like, you can have anything you want. You just have to say, I want it, and I'm going to dedicate myself to go get it. And so that's kind of like that's my mantra about things. Like I want to do something, whatever it is, and we just have to say, no, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go.
And Grant Cardone, man, that guy, everything. Oh, and he wrote a book called the 10X Rule.
Yeah, I got
right?
all of his 10X
I mean,
stuff.
he is all about 10X. And I'm just like, he's the kind of guy where I just go, he's working 10 times more than I want to work. But like, you can't argue with the results that guy gets with doing 10 times the work, man.
Yeah.
And I think that what's interesting, actually brought up a really good point, and I've found this, and I have to remind myself of it, is that we are capable of so much more than we think that we're capable of, right?
Yeah.
So it's like there's things that come in our lives where we're just like, oh my gosh, like how in the world am I going to deal with this, right? But then you get through it, right? Yeah. And you are better for it, and you realize, like, you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, like I just did so much more than I thought I was capable of doing. I think that if we can find a way to flip that script to where we realize that from the beginning, so that we're not looking forward with fear, but we're looking forward with faith in ourselves and in God, right, that he can help us.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to end up getting so much more done, like your daughter is a perfect example, than we ever thought we could.
Well, and I think it's also related to that give up gene. Like, people have this gene in them. I blame it on a gene. It's not really a gene. It's just it's just a mindset. But like I call it the give up gene. It's an easy name. But like, it's easy to just give up when something gets crazy and you're like, screw it.
Yeah.
But like, for example, I was buying another company. So we absorbed another company called Green Ninja, and he had.
I think I've seen them around.
Yeah, I bought him 5 years ago, and he had like a whole bunch of customers, a pretty large amount of customers, and I was hiring someone new to take on those customers, and then the day that we were closing on it, he was going to come in, and it was going to take us about 40 hours of calling through all of his customers, telling them that he was retiring, and that I was going to be the new owner of Green Ninja,
so
and it was
freak out
merging.
when they're like,
to minimize our losses on people canceling. And so it was going to be about 40 hours of that and making those phone calls. And the day that he was supposed to come to my office, our rodent guy just like no call, no showed. And I was like, that's money out the door. I got to figure out what's going on. And so what we found out was that the truck was parked around the corner, all the guys' shirts in it, everything. He moved out of town, didn't tell anyone. And so I was like, hey man, you're going to have to come at 5:00. And he's like, okay. And so I hopped in the truck, ran route. I posted on Indeed, like a job posting, and I went and ran route, made sales, and then I was doing phone interviews, driving to the next stop. I'd get back at 5:00, have dinner brought to the office, and had that guy meet me, and we'd call people until 9:00 at night or whenever they started getting angry. And then
I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah, and then we'd call it, and then I would have someone meet me at my house for an in-person interview at 9:30 at night or 10:00 at night, and I wouldn't get to bed until midnight doing interviews.
Just hustle.
And then, had 2 days later, I had someone hop in with me, and I'm still just having them roll with me while I'm, working through the rest. The guy came to the office once. He's like, "Are you sure you know what you're doing? You sure you're gonna be able to handle buying my company?" And I was like, "Bro, it's just a hiccup. This is what happens, man. We don't give up."
You make it happen.
And everything turned out great. It was fine. But like, I just don't have it in me to just give up just because something happened. It was hard. We all get stuff thrown at us. And it's like, okay, I guess I got to strap up and be a man today. That's what we do.
Yeah. I like to tell myself to quit being a little Mitch about it.
Yeah. A little Mitch about it. Yeah.
Put on your big boy pants. Be a big
right.
Mitch.
Yeah.
That's what I like to tell myself.
Yeah.
We all got a little Mitch inside of us that we need to,
That's very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. It's just very easy. And I think, we're in charge of teaching our kids not to be that way, but it's very easy for people to just give up these days and be 100%. Like, someone else's job to provide for me or to make it happen or whatever.
And it's so easy now. I mean, not to mention all the politics of it all, but like just the culture of one, like, give it to me now. Everything is, I've ordered something on my phone and it got shipped to me that day.
Yeah.
Never something that I would ever think would be possible growing up.
Yeah.
It'll be a week to 2 weeks and it's like, great, looking forward to it. But now it's like, if it doesn't come in like the next day, then you're freaking out.
Yeah.
Or credit cards or, just put it on credit and make payments. It's like all these different things that it makes everything, you need it right now.
Which actually makes life harder.
Yes. Oh, yes. Because then you wind up having, 50 bills that you never would have had.
Yeah.
And then it's, all of a sudden all your money just goes out the door for a couch that, you don't even have anymore because
For an impulse buy.
for an impulse buy.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that delayed gratification, that's a big one that I've been trying to talk to oh my gosh, my oldest again the other day, he goes, oh, I wish I didn't have to have any self-control.
At least he recognizes the word of it. Like
I know.
Self-control.
I was like, okay, how am I gonna deal with this one? Because right now I just want to throw him out the window. But that's so true. Like we all go through that. But then I talked to him. I was like, okay, if you don't have any self-control, look at the problems that will cause you, further on down the road. And so I kind of walked him through it and everything. And then I was like, if you had no self-control, let's say somebody else was in control of everything, then your life would suck. So we've been given a gift, and we talk about it, right? The agency that we have to do really whatever it is that we want. If you want to go sleep with your neighbor's wife or whatever, that is technically a choice, but you're probably going to have somebody.
Consequences are real.
The consequences are real.
Yeah.
If you want to screw someone over in business, if you want to, beat your wife and kids, all these different things that, sure, people can do, but you see the awful, horrible consequences in society and then also your personal life. You got to deal with that. You can't just...
Have you given your kids the patience test?
I feel it every day. I feel like is really what's that?
So they do this test to see how well your kids will do being patient with the donuts.
Oh,
have you seen that?
I have shown them that.
Oh, bro, you got to try it.
And I brought up investments with my oldest son for that exact reason, because that sparked my mind, because I told him about that, and then I told him about investments. I was like, look, if I didn't have self-control, then all the money that I have in my investment account, I'm trying to get to that $1 million mark where I can just kind of live off of some of the interest. If I didn't have self-control, I wouldn't get there. And he just goes, oh yeah. He's like, I guess I do kind of have to, think about it. So, but it's but with things like chores and things that he wants, it didn't, something that close to kind of his world didn't really, he didn't really think about it.
Yeah.
Until we kind of put it in terms that we'd been talking about before, but.
Yeah.
So tell me, speaking of kind of that, you've kind of laid out some of the things that you've done and those times where you have kind of put off kind of the immediate gratification and put in the sweat equity to get to where you're at right now. So tell us, you told me this number before and I just thought it was awesome. How profitable is your business this year? How's it looking to be?
So this year we'll probably end out, it's going to be real close to 2 million. So it'll be 1.9. I'd love to be at 1.95, but
that's awesome.
We only have 2 weeks left. So we got a lot of push in order to get there. Yeah. But it'll be pretty close.
Show up on Christmas. You're like, right? Hey, Merry Christmas.
Anyone want some OT?
Yeah. Yeah. No, but thinking back to when you were just selling,
mm-hmm.
How is that compared to now? Did you ever think?
I still remember there was a moment when I think I was 2 years in, and I was like, I did some funny math, and I love projecting. What'll happen when we're at this point and we're at that point? We have this many accounts.
My wife, oh my gosh, she gets so annoyed with me because every time we start talking, she's like, oh, you're pulling out your calculator. I was like, I know, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I made it a shortcut on my phone to do my calculator.
Me too.
Yeah, so
anyway.
So I was doing this calculation and was like, man, wouldn't it be crazy to be doing $35,000 a month in business? That would be so crazy. And at the time I was doing 7, you know, and we passed 35 a long time ago. And now it's I hope to see 35 in my bank account on Mondays, because all the transactions over the weekend.
Yeah.
So it's just cool to see that and look back and go man, I still remember when that was an amazing amount. And so now to see the amount that we process these days, I'm like, how crazy is it that we could be doing so much more even?
Yeah.
I'm still just a drop in the bucket compared to other companies.
Oh, I know. I know some people are watching 2 million,
Yeah, whoopee-doo. Yeah.
But it's compared to where you were at before though.
Yeah.
It's more than you could ever have imagined at that point, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting, you have to go through that process before you can even be able to handle what you have now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of growing pains.
Not that you wouldn't have tried your best to make it work back then.
Wow.
But it's like you got employees, you've got, trucks, you've got all this other stuff. You had acquired another business, and you kind of put in that sweat equity to get where you're at now. And you're not stopping.
No.
So like what is your goal now? Now that you almost reached 2 million this year, what, let's say another 8 years from now, 10 years from now, what are you where do you see that?
Well, I haven't gone 10 years out, but 10 years out would be like easily 50 million.
And you want to grow Green Machine to that?
Yeah.
Just keep acquiring.
Who wouldn't?
And no, I love that. I love that. And
Yeah.
it's cool. I mean, if people want to just like they create enough to where they're good to go.
Yeah.
And then they're set. But like I can't sit still. So if I get to something, you got that carrot that you're always chasing. If I get it, then I'm just like, all right, I want another carrot though, a bigger one or a bigger challenge or whatever it is.
Yeah. My wife gut checked me at my second year in business. I was like, oh yeah, this year we're gonna do this many accounts and it's gonna be this. And she's like, will you be happy then? And I was like, probably not. And she's like, so is this related to you being happy, like the goals that you're setting? And I was like, I think so. And it was a really interesting gut check that was like, oh, these things that I think are going to make me happy are not. And that's where you have like this empty void of like constantly trying for more and more and more, but not having the fulfillment that goes with it. So that's what I've been picking up from this Tony Robbins group too, is like, wow. That's one of the big things he teaches is like, you can have fulfillment in any moment. It just depends on your values and your rules to accomplish them. So one of my values was success. That was my number one value. Like, I want to be successful. I want to be known. I want my family to recognize that like we grew up with nothing and like you can still do it. And I want my kids to see like there's an example of that I could follow and like, yeah, I could do anything I want. And so like that was always at my top, but then I was never fulfilled by it because I would just I'd move the marker and
move the finish line.
Yeah. And so I just defined my values of like, all right, what is success? Success is when I've got $1 million in my bank account, and success is when I've got a freaking Lambo in my front yard. And success is when, my whole company runs without me and this and that. And it was like all these things, but each time I've hit those things in the past, I've moved them. And so like, how can I ever really feel fulfilled if I keep moving the marker of fulfillment? And so instead I need to have...
You never will, like,
right.
You'll never get there.
So instead I had to change that and go, I can feel successful anytime one of my employees is happy. I can feel successful anytime I look at the bank account, there's money in it.
Yeah.
I can feel successful anytime I can take a day off and my business doesn't fall through.
Yeah.
Like, that's bomb. That's awesome that I can feel successful all the time now.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful now. We turn our expectations into appreciation, and then we can just feel grateful all the time. And now it's just like, cool, it's another day in paradise.
Yeah. I was just about to say, like, I think that the shift there is gratitude.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to be like depressed if you're grateful. I don't feel like they can go hand in hand. And not to say that you can't suffer from clinical depression. Like I take meds for it every day, but like you can't just say, for example, take meds and be like, why isn't it better? It's like there's work that goes into trying to change your mindset and your attitude and different things like that, but like I think that gratitude has been one of the biggest things for me.
Yeah.
To look back every day and, and say, okay, well, what was it that I'm grateful for today? At dinner time, we go around the table and everybody will say what they're grateful for.
Yeah.
For that day. And sometimes it's, I got to play video games. It's like, well, what about video games? Well, I got to do this one thing and I accomplished this or whatever. And